76 homes had guaranteed replacement coverage.
Okay.
Of 951, 76 homes had replacement coverage. Equating this to cars.
Yes.
Or automobiles, if you will. We see this problem of underinsurance all the time. If you hit somebody and their car is deemed a total loss, or it's an expensive car,
sure,
and it's going to cost $15,000 to fix it, or you hit two cars that between the two of them is going to be over $15,000, and you have the statutory minimums, you're not going to have enough coverage to pay for those repairs on those other vehicles. That's going to force those people to go through their own policy and open up you to a lawsuit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another airing of Grievances. My name is Eric Reamer. This is Robert Grieve. And Rob, happy Saturday to you.
To you, our dear friends. Thanks
Always.
For tuning in.
Always. And if this is your first time here, we want to encourage you. Give us the big thumbs up there on YouTube, if you would. We appreciate that. Give us two. Don't hit it twice. If you hit it anything, hit it 3 times. But that tells Google and YouTube that we are relevant to the messaging going out across the airwaves. And second of all, if you don't mind, if you are a regular, if you're a family member of ours, if you haven't clicked subscribe, now's a great time to do that. Don't forget to click the notify bell. That notifies you every time we air another airing of Grievances episode. And of course, if you are looking at your watch and it's Saturday morning at 9:30 in the morning in the Mountain Standard Time, then you know you can chat with us live, and we always encourage that. All right, now Rob, today we're going to, and I want you to stick with us with this here. We're going to cross genres a little bit.
A little bit. But the outcome's the same.
It is, and that's why we want you to stick to the end of this video, because there's some very serious, relevant stuff going on here. But Rob, let's start by reminding our friends that you are an appointed representative.
I am.
To the state of Colorado's Department of Insurance.
Yeah. On
the Consumer Insurance Council.
Yep.
That's a fairly new appointment for you. You serve a term of 2 years, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And
if they'll have me that long.
We think it's great from the perspective here at the shop that the collision industry has a representation at that table.
Yeah.
But you also are the recipient of stories and press releases that happen beyond the scope of the collision industry, and today is one such day.
Yeah.
Share with us what's going on.
Yeah, and by the way, this information you can find on your own. I would think that most Department of Insurances have on their website place for updates.
Sure.
I actually subscribe, so if they come out with any press releases, they come in my email.
Yep.
And that's just being a resident here and interested in what's going on.
An engaged resident.
Yeah. Well, I want to, if they're changing things, I'm also on the same thing for the PUC, the Public Utility Commission.
Okay.
And, they sent out something that, they're changing the rates for Excel, if you're going to do, dishes and laundry and whatever during this time, it's going to be more expensive than if you do it other times. So,
good to know.
It's good to have just, you don't have to read the whole thing, and quite frankly, sometimes they're difficult to read just because you don't understand. It's not what we do for a living.
Well, we're going to delve into some difficult conversation today.
Yep.
Because of the nature of the topic. You may remember, especially if you live here in Colorado, but it made national news several months ago in the winter of this last year.
Yeah.
there was a fire that started in a little town called Superior, which is just outside of Boulder, Colorado. It's now known as the Marshall Fire.
Yep.
And in the course of just 12 hours, 1,084 homes were lost.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
And their contents.
And everything.
Yep.
Everything.
Associated.
Yeah. So this brings us to what came across your desk today.
Yeah.
And we want to talk about it.
Yeah, so it was a press release put out by the Department of Insurance, and they have just done such an incredible job trying to help these people and keep people informed. Just the first line of this press release, Denver, one of the more troubling issues in the aftermath of the Marshall Fire has been the problem of underinsurance for people that lost their home. That's the big overarching problem, is these people did not have enough insurance to replace their homes.
This is heartbreaking on top of heartbreaking.
Yep. There were 61 homeowners insurance companies involved in this 1,084 homes that were lost, and again, it's heartbreaking. Some of the stuff, they've already estimated over $1 billion in claims so far on this loss.
Wow.
So looking at some of their stuff that they analyzed, they did a great job. It's easy to read. Of the 900, there's a little disparity between the 1,000 houses compared to what they're reporting is 951, because some of them were commercial.
Sure.
They were renting, and they have commercial policies. So of the 951 that were part of the homeowners,
I understand,
just homeowner stuff.
Yep.
76 homes had guaranteed replacement coverage.
Okay.
Of 951, 76 homes had replacement coverage.
So there's a term, replacement coverage, that perhaps some of our viewers may not be aware of. And by the way, if you're here looking at the airing of grievances, looking for what's happening in the world of automotive, stick with us. Stick with us.
Yep.
This is important.
Yeah. So 76 homes had guaranteed coverage. Guaranteed replacement coverage basically means, and I'm not an insurance agent, but it means if you have your dwelling, which is your first coverage, what the insurance company recommends, and then you add on to it the replacement coverage, if it goes over that amount, they'll pay the difference.
Okay.
All right.
So
we're looking at 800 and something homes did not have that coverage.
Right, and this would cover even just the rising value of your home, right?
Well, it's to rebuild it.
Yes.
So, the home value doesn't really necessarily come into play. It's what is it going to take to rebuild the home should a catastrophe happen. And a lot of people guessed wrong.
Yeah.
That
might be the understatement of the year.
And maybe it's their agents that guessed wrong, or maybe it's the insurance company that guessed wrong, or maybe the people said, I don't want to spend that much, I want a lesser policy. Because
lesser premium.
Lesser premium, yeah. So if you have, $1 million home, well, let's just say a $500,000 home.
That's more along the median.
Then it's not a $500,000 home. It's a home on a piece of land.
Right.
And the land doesn't really get insured. The rebuilding of the house is what gets insured.
Sure. So
if you bought a house for $500,000, that comes with the land. Maybe you only need $300,000 to rebuild the house, depending on the house. But you need to know or have a sense of, lumber prices, everything is through the roof right now.
That's the truth.
And it would have been hard to even project the inflation that we're experiencing at this point, but we are experiencing it. So having that replacement coverage is really a good place to be.
Absolutely. And if you don't know if you have it, perhaps a phone call to your agent is imminent.
Yeah.
Or certainly necessary.
So the department decided to try and drill down to figure out exactly, what is the underinsurance? How much is that? How many dollars are people underinsured? So they started. The only way to do that is try to figure out what the building cost is going to be to rebuild it. So they went 3 different levels.
Yeah.
All right, $250 per square foot, $300 per square foot, and $350 per square foot.
Okay.
I don't know anything about those numbers. I'm not in construction. I don't know if those are realistic, not realistic, but these are the numbers that they came up with.
Okay.
And so if you take rebuilding cost at $250 per square foot, 36% of the policies were underinsured. But if you go to $350 per square foot, you assume it's going to be 350 square foot to rebuild the home. Now 67% of them are underinsured.
2/3
Yeah.
are underinsured.
Yeah. And that's a problem. So using that 253 and 350, if you're at 250 per square foot to rebuild,
Yeah.
of those policies that are underinsured, they're underinsured by $100,000.
That's no small amount.
And then at the 350, it's $250,000. They were underinsured. And I'm not exactly sure, I don't even know how you put that into play. I mean, you've gone through this horrific fire. You've lost all your stuff.
Yeah.
Your memories, your photos, your jewelry, your guns, your whatever.
Yeah.
And now you're going to deal with
A calculation.
these calculations.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the policy in just a second, just to give you some ideas. But if the dwelling coverage was off by that much,
Right.
well, all your other coverages are usually a percentage of the dwelling. They're going to be off as well.
Sure.
And this especially goes for additional living expenses, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Yeah, the replacement value and cost for your actual physical structure is unfortunately just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and it's the driving force for the rest of the policy.
Yeah.
So I got a hold of my agent, and my wife Carol and I sat down with the agent, and before we even got anywhere, I said, I don't want what has happened to the people in the Marshall fires to happen to Carol and I. And so I want to go over line by line on the declarations page what coverage we have.
Yeah.
So that I know that we have enough to rebuild the house and
live.
And contents coverage, all my personal belongings and stuff, your computers, your couches, everything.
Sure.
I mean, even down to spoons and cutlery. I mean, it's
You got to replace it.
yeah, and it's not free. And you have coverage for it. The question is, do you have enough coverage for it?
Got it.
And so, having insurance of any nature, the goal is peace of mind.
Sure.
So that I can come to work or we can go on vacation or whatever. If something happens, we have peace of mind that everything is covered, and it's covered to the right amount of money.
Let's park the car there for just a second, because as you said that the goal is peace of mind, I don't think anybody would deny that or choose to pick a fight over that. However, that is not how insurance is marketed to us.
No.
Insurance is marketed to us as pay the least premium, right? Save 15% in 15
there's always
minutes
somebody
or-
out there that says they're going to save you $600 or whatever the case
Right.
may be.
And that's
It's the worst money you could save.
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's the worst money you could save. It's not the focus that should be the primary.
And you lose your peace of mind.
And God forbid anything like this ever happens to you, but quite possibly somebody who has been touched by the Marshall Fire is watching this right now.
Yeah.
And this is relevant to you. And again, if you're here for something in the automotive industry, stick with us. We're going to tie it together.
Yep.
But this is really, really fascinating and important.
Yeah. So just a couple things. And again, Carol and I sat down with our agent, and we went line by line. And the very first thing, coverage A, is your dwelling.
Yeah.
And everything else on here is really a percentage of that dwelling, unless you adjust the numbers.
Okay.
All right? Because you may say that's good enough for the dwelling, but I want more personal property coverage.
And you can do that.
You got to talk to your agent, because every policy is a little bit different.
Okay.
And the percentage of the dwelling can vary policy to policy.
Understood.
So, understanding that the dwelling, your home, is the major part, the driving force of your homeowner's policy, and everything else is kind of a percentage of that value.
Okay.
And there's a deductible involved. So, watch this. If you go down to personal property protection,
Yeah.
okay, so that's your contents coverage. Your contents coverage, again, is a percentage of the dwelling.
Okay.
But looking at this policy, and we're going to throw this up here because this has some nice, clean explanations of each one of these things.
This is obviously just a sample.
Yeah, it's a sample.
But the numbers are
But
good
it'll get
to
you
understand.
educated enough to ask the right questions.
Yep.
So, in this example here, the personal property protection, or the contents coverage,
Yep.
has another deductible.
Surprise.
So you have a deductible on your home, now you have an additional deductible on your contents.
Mm-hmm.
And these deductibles tend to add up, because guess what? What if your car was in the garage? That's not going to get paid through this policy. That's going to get paid through your auto policy, should you have coverage on it. And there's going to be another deductible there. And so, keep in mind all these different things as you're looking through this. But here's one of the biggest things. First off, make sure you have replacement coverage on the dwelling. That
Take
to
it from
me,
the
that's
level
a
that's
must.
covered and anything beyond that. It's
Right.
kind of like a
So,
gap insurance.
In this particular case, the insurance company says, $200,000 is good enough to rebuild the house. And because we have $200,000 there, we have $100,000 in personal property
Inside
protection,
the house. Yep.
a percentage of that, and then there's other dwellings, like if you have a detached garage, that's going to be a percentage of the dwelling to cover that.
Right.
But they're all maxes, okay? So the 200 is the max, but if you put replacement coverage on that, then if it costs more than $200,000,
Perhaps because the lumber prices are.
perhaps
more.
for any number of different reasons, that's coverage. It may not be a fire, could be a theft.
Okay.
Maybe the house isn't damaged other than a broken window or busted door or something like that. You would have your coverage for that under the dwelling coverage with a deductible,
Right.
But then you go to your personal property
Yep.
or your contents coverage. And then along the same lines with that contents coverage, many times there's statutory rules that the insurance companies put in play. For instance, they owe you 30% of your personal property coverage. So this is $100,000. They'd owe you $30,000 without itemizing all your contents and all the rest of that. If you want more than that, now you got to start itemizing
It's a standard
everything.
deduction versus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're supposed to mail that check out right away. They're actually trying to change it to 60%. So,
Okay.
and I agree with that.
I do too.
But here's another really, really important one, which we haven't even gotten to that part yet, as far as these fires go and the people that were affected by it.
Yeah.
But contents D is additional living expenses. And again, in this particular case, that's $20,000.
10% of the home.
Right. And it has a little note here, up to 12 months. So you can basically take your $20,000, divide it by 12 months, and that's what that's the max they're going to pay you.
Now, I want to ask a question that I know you don't have the answer to, but how long does it take to build a house? And I can tell you right now, the people in Superior, the people who were part of this Marshall Fire, haven't even gotten anywhere near that. They're still sorting through the ashes.
Yeah, and then you have also, government getting involved from the standpoint of who are we going to use to do all the demolition, get all the old house and structures and everything away, and there may be other things that slow down the process that are maybe deemed by the government as what needs to be done because there's hazardous this or that or something else, and so 12 months is not going to be enough for those people.
I agree.
It's and 12 months divided, 20,000 divided by 12 months is not going to be enough to find a place to live.
Certainly not comparable place.
Right.
No, I mean, I have a 1-bedroom apartment and I pay $1,800 a month for it.
Yeah, so you're already outside that box.
Right.
And we don't know how long it's going to take to build a house.
Right.
So I'm just going to mention one other thing. There are limits on jewelry and guns and money if you have that in the house that is very, very low. So if you have jewelry, guns, and money in your house, you can't insure money, but you can insure jewelry and guns. You have to insure that separately.
Okay.
Otherwise, it could be a max of $250, a max of $1,000.
$250?
Right. So you need to ask about jewelry and other fine art, anything like that.
This would be a great place to say that this video could be sponsored by a safe deposit box company. If you're in the business, let us know.
Yeah. And the other thing that I've heard is if you can go room to room and take a video, it'll help with your contents coverage because then you'll be able to remember, I bought that, I bought that. Because some of these insurance companies that are covering this, they want to know exactly how many spoons, tablespoons, and teaspoons, how many forks you had, how many knives, were they bread knives, were they butter knives, were they sharp knives? They are making it really tough on people.
Yeah, it seems a little invasive. I can see the other side of it saying we're going to have to replace it. If we're going to pay for it, we need to know how many.
Right. And by the way, here's a question for everybody. How many spoons do you have in your drawer right now? So, I mean, they're even going down to clothing. You had this many shirts. Okay, how many were long sleeve shirts? How many were long sleeve dress shirts? How many were short sleeve shirts? How many were T-shirts? People that don't want to pay are going to make your life miserable, so having the right policy really, really helps. And I have peace of mind with the policy that I have because I have the replacement cost on a house.
Yes.
And this additional living expenses, I have unlimited. Not 12 months, not a dollar amount.
I see.
They will put me up, me and my family, they will put me up in a like, kind, and quality home and pay for it while a house is getting rebuilt if it were to burn down. So, you know what, I'm not worried about this stuff.
Sure.
But how this transfers over to auto is you need to be asking the same questions of your auto policy. You need to get on that DEX page and find out what happens if I have an accident. Is towing covered? Wait a second. Only $100 in towing is covered? You need to ask these questions so you're not surprised.
DEX page.
Declarations page.
Okay.
That's the first page of your policy, basically, and it has all your limits.
Which brings up a question. Where's your policy?
Yeah, where is your policy? Because if it's in your house, and if you're one of these people and it's in the house, I don't think you have a policy anymore.
Right.
You don't have the policy that you paid for. Now you're going to have to rely on them to provide you the information, or maybe have a go-between an agent that can get you a copy of
Right.
your policy.
Now, one would think we could just ask the insurance company for a copy of my policy, right? But you have an example of when you asked for, they supplied you with just a generic
A policy, but
template.
it said sample policy across it because it isn't the policy that I bought.
Right.
And what I bought had a whole bunch of endorsements on it. But in the case of these people that the houses burned down, they have no proof anymore.
Right.
So maybe your agent, if you have an agent, has one. You know, I like to email as much stuff to myself as I can. That way I can always go back through emails, whether it's
Sure.
at the library, on my phone, or whatever, and produce some of this stuff.
Sure.
So just another thing to keep in there. But equating this to cars,
Yes.
or automobiles, if you will, we see this problem of underinsurance all the time. If you hit somebody and their car is deemed a total loss, or it's an expensive car
Sure.
and it's going to cost $15,000 to fix it, or you hit two cars that between the two of them is going to be over $15,000, and you have the statutory minimums, you're not going to have enough coverage to pay for those repairs on those other vehicles. That's going to force those people to go through their own policy and open up you to a lawsuit
Yeah.
for the difference.
And that very issue is at the heart of saving you 15% in 15 minutes or more or
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
right? And getting to the very lowest premium. Again, the very worst investment that you can make or place to save money is on your premiums, because it's got to go somewhere.
And you need peace of mind.
You need peace of mind.
You want peace of mind. We have cars sitting out in the lot right now that the owners did not have enough coverage to pay for the repairs. And now they have to go through a different insurance policy or pay the difference out of pocket, or, you know, there's it's bad. And it's the same premise as these homeowner policies.
Yeah.
The policy that you purchase is your responsibility.
Sure.
You need to ask the questions and make sure you have, ask them, okay, we talked about additional living expenses, and we know that 12 months is not going to be enough to rebuild a home. Well, if you get your car damaged
How much is
and
your
it's
rental?
30 days max on your rental, is that enough to get your car repaired? Today, it may not be.
Yeah.
It
We've
most likely isn't, depending on how bad it is.
We've addressed that on a number of our videos, and I think it would behoove you to go back and take a look at some of the videos in the Airing of Grievances archives and really educate yourself about this. But this is such a great refresher.
So underinsurance is happens all over the place, and it's based on we want to save money.
Yeah.
But what we're giving up is peace of mind and protection.
Right.
So go through your auto policy, check your rental, make sure you have appropriate amount of rental. You may have an additional car today. Tomorrow you may sell that car and not have an additional car. You need to make sure you have an additional car on your policy. You're going to take the car off the policy, put rental on it. It's cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheap. Put OEM parts riders on there. What kind of parts are you going to use when when my car gets repaired? Well, we're going to use aftermarket junky,
Salvage?
knockoff, salvage, but no, I want OEM parts rider on my car. It's cheap.
It's cheap.
And they don't sell you these things because it's so cheap.
Right.
And it's worth the money. And what I want to leave you with today is make that appointment to talk to your insurance agent. Look at the numbers on there and ask yourself, can I live for 12 months with this amount of money should something happen to my home? These people had less than 15 minutes to get out of their house.
It's true.
My niece and her family arrived at our house because she was evacuated. They had enough to take some baby food and get the babies in the car and get out of there.
Yeah.
And you're talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds that was just blowing that fire all over the homes. You don't know. None of those people expected their homes to burn down.
Right.
And we don't expect to have these losses. But the reason we have insurance is to protect us in case it does happen.
That's right.
And it's worth spending the extra money, get the extra bells and whistles. You'll feel good.
It's the peace
knowing
of mind.
that you have it.
Yeah, and you won't have a huge fight on your hands come the day for settlement.
Yep.
If you have done your due diligence on the front side.
Yep. And some of the people are reporting that thieves went into these houses, even though the public wasn't allowed to go to their own homes.
Right.
Because they were, quarantined. That didn't stop the thieves from going through the homes.
Yeah.
And they stole a bunch of stuff. And then the people told their insurance company, well, a bunch of stuff was stolen.
Right.
There's another deductible. They'll deductible you to death. So, anyway, get peace of mind. Make that call. Get with your policy. Talk to your agent and make sure that you have the right coverage should a catastrophe like this happen. It's already bad enough these people are going through the fact that they've lost everything in that home.
Yeah.
Now they're going to go through the horrific problem of insurance and the time it takes to find another place to live and to rebuild their lives. Sometimes it just seems like it keeps getting worse. Have the right policy so you don't have to worry about that.
It is heartbreaking, but Rob, we want to say thank you for this. Thanks for your service to the Colorado Department of Insurance and to our community at large because of that.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions at all, we're here to answer as much as we can, and if we can't, we'll refer you to somebody who can. Here's our phone number right here. Go ahead and give us a call if you've got a question about your automotive insurance or the policies that you've got. And again, we're not lawyers, we're not insurance agents by any stretch of the imagination, but we've been around the block, especially this guy. He's been around the block.
We've seen lots of things that people wish they knew before it happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you, Rob. Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing week.